Good morning, good morning. It's good to see you all today on this spring rain. I always look forward to these opportunities to get together. We have a really robust agenda, which I think we shared out with you all. And so before we jump in, I would like to invite Pastor Taryn forward to offer a prayer. Thank you.
All right, good morning. Let us pray. Loving God, we thank you for an opportunity to gather together once again and to remember our shared work together. And God, we thank you for this rain that was much needed, and we pray that this will be the thing that our earth needs to green up and be ready for spring. And God, as we round out the last few weeks of the semester, we ask that you would help us to stay centered on the work that you have called us to. Give us the energy and the stamina and the ability to love one another well. Help us to have eyes to see your presence on this campus. And God, as we gather today, may you guide our time together. May it help us to build your kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. Amen.
Thank you. So as we gather, I'm reminded of our purpose for having these occasions, and they are to get some feedback, opportunities for you to ask questions, and that's where we'll end today. The second is opportunities for fellowship, for us to gather to see each other, particularly interdepartmental. And then the third piece is for us to share important information, and there's a number of those that we'll walk through. The first is a report from our Board of Trustees. As you know, we gather twice a year, and when we gather, there's opportunities for all board conversation. We call those plenaries. And then there's a number of engagements with students, and then there's also a number of engagements with faculty and staff. And then the core part of the meeting would be our 3 committees. And as part of that committee work, we have faculty and staff representatives on each of those committees. And so now what I'm going to do is invite the representatives from those respective committees to offer some updates. And then I'll invite, of course, others that were in those committee meetings, including the vice presidents, to chime in with additional information. So to start, I'll invite Jan Larson forward. So for this meeting, we actually combined the advancement committee with the committee. It's always a long name, and I always forget the name of the committee. Strategic Growth and Student Experience. So that committee is intended to be representatives of our admissions work, our recruitment work, our student engagement work, our marketing work. So we combine that with advancement. Jan?
All right, good morning, everyone. Well, like Dr. Kittle mentioned, the committee that I'm reporting back on today was the Strategic Growth and Student Experience Committee. Something new for us this year was having the Advancement Committee join this committee, and there was a number of reasons for that. I think the attendance maybe on the Advancement Committee was a little bit low in person this year, and it also gave that committee the chance to hear from myself on some marketing things and hear from Ross Simple as well on an athletic update. So a couple of things I wanted to highlight this morning. One thing to mention, we had 2 board members this year that termed out. So Linda Komprinsky and Jerry Miller were terming out their time on the board, and so this was their last committee meeting. And so we made sure at the beginning of the meeting to just have kind of a moment to really appreciate them and their work and their voices over the last few years. One of the things that we had, so Leon Washington, if you're familiar with all of our different board members, Leon Washington is the chair of our committee. And before the board meeting, we had Leon actually go and record a video with our new video software, which is called Video Request. And within that opening message, Leon shared his appreciation for all the work that Linda and Jerry have done over the years. So we took a moment to have some reflection at the beginning of the meeting. We always have students that join us. This year we had Caitlin Christensen and Emma Weisler. Is that Weisler? Okay. Join us that were able to share a little bit about themselves and kind of their experience that they've had at DWU. We always, at the beginning of the meeting, go around and we start the meeting by just sharing the one word that describes the day, which is a great way to center ourselves and get ourselves ready for the meeting. And then really the bulk of the agenda for the committee meeting was between Ross and I. So I shared some insight on DWU marketing, the types of things that we look at collectively as we're working through marketing plans. More specifically, I shared some details about the markets that we look at and how we kind of plan and accommodate with those markets. When I'm saying the word markets, what I'm referring to is like traditional students versus grad and online. You know, we plan campaigns differently for our traditional students than we do for like MBA students. And so I gave a few examples of the types of things that we do when we're planning marketing plans. I talked about the channels that we look at, how we build the top of the funnel for the admissions team. The scope of what we do, sort of a high level view of the projects that we work on. And then when we execute our marketing plans, how we use a variety of things and we optimize as channels and as things are happening. So I think it was a good way to show the board the types of things that, that we look at in the marketing department, why we make the decisions that we make. For an example, a lot of times we'll get a question, especially during March Madness, when we have the state basketball tournament, why DWU is not advertising on South Dakota Public Broadcasting. Well, there's a couple of reasons why we don't. One, there's a waiting list. And second, you have to commit $20,000 or more. And that's quite a bit out of our budget. So we look at other ways to be there so that we can advertise for the people that are attending those state tournaments. Like we have a big ad in the program. We run geofencing campaigns so that we're with them digitally. And then when they leave that space, then we're still with them digitally because we've already been tracking them. So just to kind of give you an idea of how we plan and how we execute, and those were some of the examples that I shared with the board. And then Ross spoke about an athletics update. He mentioned the GPAC events that we've held on campus this year, specifically men's wrestling, the dual tournament, and the indoor track meet. He did share this, but I'll just say it again. Thank you to those who volunteered for that event. I know that it takes many, many people to make those things happen. So from Ross, thank you for those that were able to volunteer. And then Ross touched on the high GPA among our student athletes, which you're all probably familiar with. Specifically, he shared the recognition that we had at the Corn Palace earlier this year, where all of the students that had a 3.0 or higher went to the center of the Corn Palace floor, and there was a moment where there was some recognition there. And the board was just really appreciative of that moment. And I would just say, as kind of a planning tool for next year, what was great about that specific game, not only was the recognition wonderful, but that was also the same day that we had our employee gathering at Bradley's. So for those of you that are on that employee engagement committee, if we know when the recognition is going to be held for the GPAs, it would be nice for us to be there as well, because it really filled the Corn Palace, and it was great for us to be in the room to celebrate in that special moment. And then Ross also shared kind of a graph of all the numbers for committed students, those athletes that have signed as of March 1st. So I think that kind of wraps up our time. Our committee meeting always runs really quickly. We run up like right to the minute that we have to be done because there's lots of conversation, and it's a great group to be a part of. So any questions on that? Okay, if I can just add one more thing, just a reminder today that Founders Day, we're celebrating Founders Day at chapel service, so make sure you come back to the Sherman Center today at 11 a.m. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Christine, would you like to come forward and report on the Business Affairs Committee?
Good morning. Like President Kittle just said, we had the Committee on the Business Affairs. So we're talking about all things financial, business, office items. Our main point that we started talking about right away was our endowment fund. Our endowment is currently at $45.5 million. And that endowment has a 5% spend rule each year, which is very beneficial to the university. That 5% of that endowment helps with our scholarships, it helps with our business operations. It's a huge part of us, and we appreciate everybody who works so hard on those endowments. For the next budget year, that endowment draw will be close to $2 million. So it is a large part of our budget. We talked about the 24-25 budget. We met our enrollment goals for our traditional students. Our spring 2025 enrollment actually exceeded our budget goals, and there was a less than 10% reduction in students that came back to fall or to spring from fall. So that's great to keep that retention. A lot of effort has been done to keep our student balances paid up. I mean, that's been a high priority, keeping on line with our budget, making sure that we're doing our diligence to make sure that we're getting our bills paid and also getting reciprocated with the bills that we're sending out. Our unfunded tuition is trending at about 57%. That's due a lot to the scholarship model change, but those are things that we're looking at and being mindful of. The 2025-26 budget was also talked about, where we're doing, the data gathering was pretty much the same way, reaching out to the departments, asking them what their must-haves are, and also what their needs are, what are things that they're needing that aren't absolutely necessities at this point, but always being mindful of what needs are out there in departments. In January, the board did approve an increase of $1,150 in tuition and fees for the traditional students, where part of that was tuition, room, board, activity fees, which is a great asset or great addition to our budget. We got to be mindful of room, board, and fees are not discounted. Tuition is discounted, so we need to keep in alignment with other universities, and that was all part of being staying on track. Highlights to the budget: our Rapid City Nursing second cohort is full. That's an additional 48 students. Our fees increased, as we talked about. We had an increase of approximately 3% to our health insurance premiums. That's all part of the budget. As everybody knows, we switched to Avera this last year. Part of that, we switched to Avera, and DWU pays about 75% of individual premiums for our staff and faculty, so that's a great asset to us, or a great benefit to us. There was a 2% increase in salaries that was added to the budget, and that, of course, that 5% endowment draw helps with the operating expenses. Some points of interest on the budget that were really positives: a year ago, on February 7th of 2024, our accounts receivable was approximately $1.7 million. That same time frame this year, it was down to $878,000. So with the increase in students and increase in costs, we were able to stay on top of those accounts receivable because of the work of everybody doing their diligence and keeping our, staying on top of getting our accounts receivable and things that staying on track. Over 200 of our students received Pell Awards this year. We have 23 VA students receiving approximately $309,000 in benefits. Of course, we've started the fleet cards in the athletic departments. Those are some of the automation and things that we're doing to try and stay on top of things, or stay in, just keep things flowing adequately or appropriately. We did negotiate a one-year contract for dining with Compass or Fresh Ideas again. We talked about the budget numbers too. The budget, of course, the main goal is to have a balanced budget, which we do. We kept on top of that. A large increase was our unfunded aid, but of course we're looking at keeping our endowment going strong and trying to, stay on top of those things. Our overall expenses, we're trying to be very conservative. The university runs very conservatively and is very mindful of our expenses and our incomes coming in. So there was and the overall expenses per department were largely due to that salary increase. Everything else kind of is just the normal day-to-day expenses that we're going through. The board was very, very gracious to us, very complimentary to the things that we're doing, trying to be mindful of everything that's going on, staying on top of our expenses, staying, not overspending, being mindful of our ins and outs. It was a very good meeting. So, any questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Christine. Just one note, because it connects with another area. We talk about the accounts receivables and that progress, which is really important. And I think to be able to simultaneously increase retention is remarkable. So much so actually that our partner in retention, Credo, has reached out to understand more of how we've done that. So just that's a really remarkable accomplishment individually, right? Retention and accounts receivable, but to do it simultaneously is remarkable. So just a point of pride, I think, for the institution. The last one would be for academic affairs, and Molly.
So I sit on academic affairs as the staff member. This year we talked mostly about our new CIS program. Kyle Hergis gave a presentation on what that's all going to entail. So we are partnering with Acadium for that. There's going to be about 6 to 7 classes online through Acadium for that new program. So we talked a lot about how that was going to work, how it works in the registrar's office, how it works with the business office, all of that. So they did not vote on it during that time. It was more of a presentation of what it is. Since then, though, I can tell you that it has passed EP&C and it has passed faculty. So now the next step is for the board, that Academic Affairs Committee, to vote on it. So they will do that, and then we also have to have it approved through HLC. So all of that is still coming up. The timeline for that is unknown at this time. I think it takes a while. We also mentioned a little bit of our Spanish minor. We had talked about doing that. I think that's a little bit on hold for now. Just we need to get that more in line, I'll say. So we are still hoping that comes down the pipe, but not yet. The other update that was done was the Genzabar web update. So some of our offices, mine being I think next, are moving to Genzabar web. I think that's going to be really good for our advisors and for the academic side of the house. It makes my life easier. It's going to make everyone else's life easier too. So that's an exciting thing. The provost talked a little bit about our HLC accreditation that's coming up in 2027, and just kind of what that entails. Our assurance committee will begin work in just a couple weeks, so we'll get going on that. He also talked about retention, which was just brought up. We are moving in the right direction. Our retention is going much better than it has, right? So we're very excited about that. The Academic Affairs Committee was very, very happy to hear that as well. That we talked about just some of the things we've been doing and what we're going to continue to do. We talked a little bit about the Moving the Needle committee that was formed and how we meet every couple weeks, and we're still continuing on that. They were very, very happy with what we do as staff members. They complimented us greatly in my committee as well. So they say thank you for all that you do and wanted me to let everyone know. So any questions for me? All right.
Thanks, Molly. Just 2 more notes before I turn it over to Jody. The first would be in terms of the new computer information systems program that was mentioned. We'll present certainly more information. I don't want to get ahead of the board on it, but just to give you a bit more context. So it'll be a Bachelor's of Science degree in computer information systems, and then the concentrations will be in artificial and digital intelligence, the UI, UX design, and project management. And we came to those through quite a bit of research in terms of the market, right? What are students interested in? In what market can we compete in terms of getting additional students? And then we also talked quite a bit to community partners. to help us develop the curriculum so that then we would produce graduates that they're interested in hiring. And so much so that in those conversations it actually led to their philanthropic support. And so the startup funds became available through philanthropic support to start the program. So just a lot of work behind the scenes to develop what I think is going to be a really strategic opportunity for the institution. So more to come on that once we get the board approval and the HLC approval here in the next couple of months. But the intent is to launch that for fall of 2026. But obviously, as soon as it's been approved and we can begin to market it, we will. Because we could, as far as even this fall, students could begin that track, albeit not officially, but begin to take some of the prerequisites that will position them to transition formally into it in fall of 26. So an important strategic opportunity for us, more to come on that. And then the next, just on the board of trustees, one of the things that we do every meeting, there's a committee on trustees and governance. So that committee is intended to really attend to the board. How well is it functioning? Do we have the right members? So on and so forth. And so a big responsibility of that group is to identify new board members. And as you heard, we had 2 that were terming off, so our board has term limits. And the 2 that termed off was Jerry Miller and Linda Kopinski. Both of them brought much to the board. Jerry has particular passion for athletics, and Linda has, a remarkable career in nursing. And so those are 2 pieces that we're now thinking about, okay, how do we make sure that we have voices on the board that represent those constituencies and beyond? And then as we bid farewell to those, we invited 3 board members onto the board. And so those 3 are Deb Cooler, Diane Delores, and Brad Pratt. So Deb and Diane are in our region here, or maybe some names that have been strong supporters of DWU, will be wonderful additions to the board. And then Brad is maybe a name that you recognize. Brad had a term on our board a few years ago, and he's been invited back. So those are 3 new board members that we're excited to welcome at our fall board meeting. The last thing I'll say is, if you have ideas for board members, let me know. What I have found that's been really valuable is that people have given me names, and then it's a bit of a point of contact with them. And sometimes for a variety of very good reasons, they're not really right for the board at this time, but it's another connection between the university and those people. So even if you're not sure, you think, hey, this person might be a good connection for the institution, just let me know. It's just an opportunity to reach out and to invite them to campus for a tour, or I can go visit them and so on. Those visits have been very meaningful. And so I just encourage you to let me know if there's those kind of folks out there. Before we transition to the portion of the agenda that is Jody, before we get to that piece, any questions about the board? Anything really in terms of the meetings or questions you might have? Seeing none, I will invite Jody forward. Thanks.
A little bit shorter. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the campus master plan, first of all, and I'm only going to just mention a little bit about it because I want you all to come back to Tiger Tuesday next week, and you're going to get a more in-depth look at the campus master plan. So I'm just going to show you a few things, and I want to just mention that bring that up. I hope you can see that. This is kind of what I would call a snapshot of the final campus master plan. And I just want to remind you all that these are ideas that really came back from all of you, from our students, from the community, from alumni, just our board of trustees. So this is a culmination of those ideas. So I want to draw your attention first to tiers 2 and 3. They're at the top. So at the top you see they say long-range planning. So as we look at this plan, it's not really a checklist. It's not a to-do list of sorts, at least in tier 2 and 3. These are aspirations. These are things that will take a lot more strategic planning, more resources, and a lot more commitment and support for what the university plans to do in the future. So those are ideas, and we'll talk a little bit more. Tier 1, if you look at that, on the left is low risk, low resource demand, and it kind of carries across to high risk and high resource demand. So I'm going to talk a little bit about these, and you'll learn more in detail, and we'll actually see some pictures in Tiger Tuesday, so come back. But Tier 1, and you'll see on this list, there are things that we've already done, that we've already accomplished. There's things that we are working on, and there are things that we are trying to plan for and will be prioritizing. So the first one you see is admissions, signage, and wayfinding. I don't think it's a secret that we have been talking about this a lot. Like, how do our students find where they park? How do they know how to get to admissions, which is in the very center of campus? So we've talked about some strategies, and Credo was very helpful in helping us to understand, what are some strategies they've seen at other schools. And you'll hear more about that on Tiger Tuesday and what we're doing. Furniture and room assignments in McGovern. It's kind of about, we've already made some progress there, right? With St. John's Bible being added, it's kind of changed the look and feel to the Tiger Cafe. We're talking about, can we make the Tiger Cafe feel more like a coffee house for students? So those are some things, making sure we have enough. From the students, I think we heard study rooms were important, and so I don't know how many study rooms we have, but just reviewing that and making sure they're available for students when they need them. The former registrar space, so that has already been assigned to performing arts, so that has already happened. I think the kind of fun part about this campus master plan is bringing you all together and talking about, just brainstorming ideas and thinking, hey, that we can do that right now, where we may not have had those conversations without an actual campus master plan process. So that is something that we already did. The students requested that we have power towers in the lobby of the SBIL building. They hang out in the chairs there, and they're looking for outlets in the wall to plug their devices into. And so can we add power towers? That's a pretty simple thing that, we don't think about because we don't plug our devices in. So it was good to have the students' feedback on that as well. Updating the Rollins guest bathrooms. If you stepped into them, you probably stepped into the 70s and 80s. So we're going to try to update those a bit with some minimal resources, and we're going to start working on that this summer. We don't have a private bathroom. And so sometimes we have people that, we might need a lactation room or we need a private restroom. So we're going to have convert one of them to a private restroom for those purposes. A soccer-sized turf field. I know we've talked about this. What are the priorities for bringing some athletics onto campus? And, what would be something that would bring students to the games? And soccer was one of the priorities that came out. Outdoor recreation courts at the pavilion, just right outside here. We thought about pickleball. I think they had a pickleball intramural or maybe a student life activity, and there were, I don't know, Abby told me, I can't remember. There was a lot of students that participated. So just understanding, what could we provide for students for more student activity right here on campus. Sherman Center acoustics, where we're at right now. The acoustics were, we have many different performances in this space, right? We have large group performances, small group performances. So acoustics are tricky. Like, how do you get the right acoustics for all those size groups? Because they all require a little bit different acoustics. So just revisiting that to make sure we have the most up-to-date acoustics in this space. Museum corner cleanup, you probably have already seen that if you've driven by the museum corner. We're disposing of the farm machinery equipment. I think actually most of it's gone. We took out the fence, and that kind of falls into the next one as well, the streetscape definition. Credo talked about really defining our campus, like where are the corners of the campus? How do people know when they're driving that they're on our campus? And the museum corner was kind of a confusing piece, because is it a museum? Is it the college? So really defining what the boundaries are of our campus. And then as we get into the high risk, high resource, you see the Dayton Hall renovation. In particular, the bathrooms need to be updated, and we have some ideas on that. But that, again, we want that to be a short term, but it will take a lot more planning and resources at this point. The Christian Family Wellness Center, air conditioning in the gym. Yay, we need that once in a while. So that's on the short list. And then entrance to the south and the common space addition in the education building. That actually, the board moved that to tier 1. I think originally it was in tier 2, but with the high profile, it's one of our larger programs with the elementary school right there. There really isn't a identification that we have an education department. I mean, there's a sign, but they need more space and just a little more identity. So those are the tier 1 things. As I said, we still are prioritizing. We'll be working on that and sharing this out with all of you, but more to come on Tuesday. We're going to talk about how we're going to communicate and those kind of things. So I want to thank everybody who participated. We had great participation, throughout the entire process, and I think it was Credo did a nice job of kind of gathering this all together. Questions on that before I move to the next topic? Okay, this one might excite you more. So summer hours, we in the past have had summer hours, but with our core office hours, that's really kind of what our summer office hours were. So we'll continue with our core office hours in the summer. Friday afternoons off, starting June 6th through August 10th. So that was something we started last year. Yay, yes, yay. I don't know, I tried to put a beach picture on here. I don't know if you're going to the beach on Fridays, but it's a good idea anyway. Okay, so I just want to leave this up so you can reflect on this while I give you some more updates on personnel. We've had a lot of searches going on, as you all have been aware, and one of the things before I kind of want to just give you a running list of where we're at on these searches, but I want to mention Employee Engagement Committee members, or some of them here, and I think what's their theme? We heard you, right? You guys have been saying we heard you. So one of the things that we heard is when there are open positions, you might find out about it because you saw it on the website, or you might hear about it in the community. So we've been asked to communicate openings in a more timely manner to our staff and faculty, and that's certainly something that we need to do. So we are going to start, there's a little HR piece in our newsletter, and we are going to start putting in the HR newsletter, here are the open positions that we have, so that you can hopefully hear about it first. And so, there's some timing with that, right? Our newsletter comes out every other week, but we want to provide that information to you so that you're not hearing it from other people or seeing it on the website and wondering about that. So we heard you. So the current open positions that we have a head men's basketball coach, a GA, women's basketball, director of human resources, and we are interviewing for the director of human resources. Database systems administrator, I believe they're starting those interviews as well. Sports information director, we've been interviewing for that. Clinical athletic trainer, I believe I can mention the two individuals we have hired. Right, Ross? It's not, okay. Caitlin Place and Trent Suckett will be starting this summer. And I believe is Trent a grad? Okay, awesome, yes. Let's see, serial cataloging and acquisitions librarian. We have hired Angie Sewell. She will be starting in August. Payroll was filled by Dawn Smith-Fisher, and she's here. Can you wave? I don't know if everybody's met Dawn. Yay, she started, was it March 31st? March 31st. And our custodial maintenance position was filled by Taylor Baldwin. I'm not sure if Taylor is here. Taylor's here, all right. I don't know if everybody's met Taylor. Awesome. Some faculty positions, assistant professor of math, assistant professor of accounting and finance, and I believe we have secured Steve Horan, I think is how you say his name. We have nursing faculty position, a psychology faculty, and English faculty. So lots of searches going on and no HR director. So I do want to give a shout out to Leah Meligard. She has been helping in HR and has been helping us to kind of wrangle all these searches and keep it all in line. So thank you, Leah. Questions on any of those? It's all good stuff. Okay. Employee experience survey. I just want to give you another, just little tidbits about this. Again, come to Tiger Tuesday. We're going to talk more about the results. But I just will kind of summarize kind of how we got to where we are right now. This was kicked off in the month of February. I think it started right away, and we had 118 employees respond, which is a little over 80%, which is amazing for a survey, so thank you for those of you that responded. The results were tabulated and shared with the Employee Engagement Committee and the leadership team. And so just in summary, again, they were anonymous. So just some summarized data has been shared, and I want to give you just a little tidbit about, and you'll see more of this at Tiger Tuesday. I don't know if you can read this, so I'm going to read out some of this to you. But this is just something on the demographics of who responded. The primary role, there were 41 full-time faculty, 8 part-time faculty, which also includes adjunct, 65 full-time staff members, and 4 part-time staff members make up the 118 respondents. In the age groups of the people that responded, it's really pretty even. 13 under 30, 27 in the 31 to 40, 30 in the 41 to 50, 26 51 to 60, and 21 over 60. Tells you we might have some more retirements coming up, doesn't it? So that was pretty even. And then how long have you been in the organization? Less than 1 year. There were 14. So if you can see those, I won't read them. But so that most of the people that responded were here 3 to 5 years is the largest. So this is some of the data we'll talk about at Tiger Tuesday. We'll get more in depth of what some of the answers to the questions were. And we'll talk about some of the steps that will take some of the action items. For the state interviews, we kind of did that in conjunction so we could use the feedback from both the survey and the state interviews. And these were interviews that supervisors conducted with their employees to really find out, it's kind of the opposite of an exit interview. Like, why do you stay and how can we keep you? Like, what do we need to do now? Instead of asking when you leave, why did you leave? We want to know what we can do to keep you. So supervisors completed those. I think we just finished those here in April, and the summary results will tabulate those as well, and they'll be shared out again. So going forward, the leadership team is considering some things. So just some of the communications to kind of recap all of the different things we've done. President Kittle had small group meetings over the winter, I think, winter, spring. So real recently, we've had a communication survey, the employee experience survey, the stay interviews, and then the feedback that we get from the Employee Engagement Committee. So those are all communications that we are kind of considering and trying to understand more about. So the goal is really to review all of that feedback from all those different sources, try to understand, is there an issue? Are there more issues we need to deal with? Is this something we can, we need to change broadly, or is this a department thing? And then develop action plans from that. What can we do? I think we talked in leadership real briefly about some of these things already, and I think the one thing we talked about that's probably the most important is doing all these things and then not coming back to you with some action plans or some ideas would be a big mistake. So those are some of the things that we're thinking about, and how do we move forward with some of the ideas and feedback that we've gotten from these things. Questions about this process? Okay. I think I have one more thing that I wanted to mention. So those of you that have been here more than a year, you know that typically in June, as staff members, you receive a letter of appointment in your mail, probably at home, right? I think we mail it out to you, notifying you of your position, your salary for the next year. So this year, I think Christine mentioned in her report that the board approved 2% raises for all of you. So yay, you're gonna get a 2% raise in June. We wish it could be more, but 2% raise. But we are not going to send formal letters of appointments to your home this year. I will send out a general announcement, but as of June 1, you will get a 2% raise. So the letter of appointment was very formal. It kind of felt like we were reappointing you every year. We're really not. We're giving you a raise, and so that's the most important part. So that will happen, but you will not get a formal letter. Questions about that? Because I know that's a change from what we've done in the past. Any objections to that? If your job changes, if something changes, you will certainly get a new letter of appointment. We'll still continue that process, and new hires get that. But as an employee that's been here, you will not get a renewal like that. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, I think that was everything I had. Any questions for me on any of that? Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. So we're at the portion now where if you have any questions, comments, announcements, we would entertain those. Yes. Recording, yes, and yes. If you just let Emily know, we do record them each time for folks, and so then we'll send them out after Tiger Tuesday. Yeah, good question. We also broadcast it too as well, right? Like the YouTube link. That's a unique link that we would send to you. Other questions or comments, announcements? All right, well, seeing none, I'll wrap us up and invite you to ask us any questions you might have. I'll stick around for a while if you've got some specific ones, and thanks very much for coming. Have a great day.